Tonight on Joy News Prime, Ghana Health Service assures Ghanaians it is intensifying the country's preparedness activities and heightening surveillance against the coronavirus following the confirmation of Nigeria's first case.
It is an Italian citizen who works in Nigeria and returned from Milan, Italy to Lagos, Nigeria on the 25th of February 2020. He actually landed here in the evening of the 24th, but by the time he got into his residence, Lagos, already 25th. He was confirmed by the virology laboratory of the Lagos University Teaching Hospital.
But with the Nigerian authorities saying the surveillance at the country's airport could not successfully detect the case, would be asking what, if at all, Ghana could do differently. The Member of Parliament for Kumbungu is meanwhile concerned about the president catching the coronavirus as he travels through countries with confirmed cases.
Could my honourable friend confirm whether, upon arrival in the country from his European tour, His Excellency the President would be quarantined?
The Upper West Regional Chief Imam is meanwhile leading prayers against the virus.
We expect God to answer our prayers. We expect God to answer our prayers and then take the virus away from the world.
As part of Accra experience the first rainfall since the onset of the Hamilton, residents are worried about the city's preparedness against the floods the Meteo Agency is predicting this year.
2011-2015, in so to trophy and crime and fire the whole crime.
There is still a lot of work to be done on the Odor drain. And
when it rains, people find very uncomfortable here. Okay. Yeah, definitely flooded because when it rains.
Auditor General insists he's unfazed by threats to remove him from office.
I don't care. So if today I'm told I'll be removed, that is it. Full stop.
As the first confirmed coronavirus case in Nigeria sends shivers across the West African sub-region, health officials at that border insist they are ready to prevent the virus from entering the country.
I'm Mr. Lion. Joy News Prime comes to you live from the Joy News studio at Kukumlimli here in Accra with digital address G80992539, where we're celebrating 25 years of fearless journalism. Stay tuned in. In our first story, the Ghana Health Service says it will continue to intensify the country's preparedness activities and heighten surveillance at all entry points to ensure citizens are safe and secure from the COVID-19 virus. The assurance follows the confirmation of the first coronavirus case in Nigeria, the first in sub-Saharan Africa. The patient is an Italian citizen who works in Nigeria and flew into the commercial city of Lagos from Milan on Tuesday, February 25. Nigeria's health minister says he is stable with no serious symptoms and is being treated at a hospital in the city.
It is an Italian citizen who works in Nigeria and returned from Milan, Italy to Lagos, Nigeria on the 25th of February 2020. He actually landed here in the evening of the 24th, but by the time he got into his residence, Lagos, already 25th. He was confirmed by the virology laboratory of the Lagos University Teaching Hospital, which is a part of the laboratory network of the Nigeria Center for Disease Control. The patient is clinically stable, symptoms, and is being managed at the Infectious Disease Hospital in Yaba, Lagos. The government of Nigeria, through the Federal Ministry of Health, has been strengthening measures to ensure an outbreak in Nigeria is controlled and contained quickly. The multi-sectoral coronavirus preparedness group, led by the Nigeria Center for Disease Control, has immediately activated its National Emergency Operations Center and will work closely with Lagos State Health Authorities, or let us say is already working closely with Lagos State Health Authorities to respond to this case and implement. I wish to assure all Nigerians that we have been beefing up our preparedness and capabilities since the first confirmation of cases in China.
Well, Ghana has so far instituted measures, including temperature checks at the airport to detect suspected cases. The case in Nigeria, however, proves that temperature checks, though necessary, are not very helpful in detecting cases. We would shortly be speaking with the National Coordinator for Port Health at the Ghana Health Service on what this means for the country's preparedness so far, and then would also be joined by a Ghanaian doctor doing his specialty in Wenzhou, Akiti Jolali. Let's first bring you this statement issued by the Ghana Health Service, seeking to reassure Ghanaians it is on top of the situation. And it reads, the Ministry of Health, Ghana Health Service, has received news of the confirmation of the first case of coronavirus disease, COVID-19, in Nigeria, a sub-regional neighbor, on February 27, 2020. We wish to take the opportunity to reassure Ghanaians that we will continue to intensify our preparedness activities and heighten surveillance at all points of entry to ensure that all citizens are safe and secured. Meanwhile, we entreat the general public to stick to the following precautionary measures, and these precautionary measures are very important. 1, regularly wash hands with soap and running water, or if possible, use hand sanitizers regularly. 2, practice common cough sneezing etiquette, such as covering of mouth with handkerchief or tissue paper when coughing or sneezing. If you have recently arrived from any of the countries that have reported a case, we advise you stay away from crowd, self-quarantine for at least 14 days. In cases of persistent cough or fever, contact the call center for assistance on these lines, and they list the lines as follows. Now, we're joining us on phone now is Dr. Laye, the National Coordinator for Port Health at the Ghana Health Service. Before then, though, let's speak with a Ghanaian doctor doing his specialty in Wenzhou, Akiti Jolali. Thank you very much for joining us, Doctor. Now, you have been following the virus from China, where this actually started. What can you tell us again? And we have actually spoken with us before and told us about the measures that have been put in place at the airport and saying that they are not foolproof. Now, Nigeria has a case, and they're clearly showing that indeed the temperature checks are not very helpful in detecting cases. What do you make of the Nigerian case, first of all?
Hello, good evening to your viewers. I think for the Nigerian case, it's so unfortunate that they couldn't pick it up at the airport. As I've said earlier, this temperature check at the airport won't get this because the person may be in the incubation period. So, but the good thing is that they've been able to pick it up early, and they are doing contact tracing. So just pray that they will be able to contain in the disease in Nigeria.
All right, so for you, remind us again, how do you think we can better approach this issue? If you're saying that the temperature checks, and that has been proving in Nigeria, is not very helpful.
I think the temperature check is, I'm not saying it's not helpful, but it's one of the precautions needed. But looking at how the virus takes charge, you realize that somebody can come into the country from these affected nations in the incubation period. For us, I will advise that we kind of isolate all those coming from these countries. If possible, we should actually, as a government, should actually prevent all flights coming from China from entering Ghana.
That's quite a difficult thing to do, don't you think?
Yes, I know it's a difficult thing to do. Because looking at this whole situation, when something happens in Ghana right now, we are talking about the emergency centers that have been allocated for the coronavirus issues. When something happens in Ghana, you should know that our transport system is different from those here. Our way of communication is different. How is Ghana Health Service taking communication into consideration. We've had people go into the coronary centers and they are told that their blood has been taken. They should go and come back later on for the results.
All right, Dr. Stephen Akiti, would want to leave it here, not completely done with you, but we'll be coming back to you. We're looking at some other angles of the story. A member of parliament for Kumbungu, Ras Mubarak, has expressed concern over President Akufo-Addo's safety against the COVID-19 outbreak while he tours Europe. Ras Mubarak, on the floor of parliament, quizzed the majority leader of Sabonsu whether the president will be quarantined upon his return. Speaking on the floor of the House, he quizzed the majority leader, Ose Eche Mensa Bones. Let's hear him.
Mr. Speaker, 80,000 confirmed cases of the coronavirus. Now, Mr. Speaker, 80,000 cases in 45 countries, with Nigeria being the latest. Mr. Speaker, some of our colleagues are on official and private businesses outside of the country. Could the leader of the House give the following indications? One, what measures are being put in place to ensure that the Right Honourable Speaker, staff of Parliament, and members of Parliament are not at any risk of contracting the coronavirus? Secondly, Mr. Speaker, could we, as a matter of urgency, invite the Minister of Health to further give indication as to the levels of the country's preparedness in protecting Ghanaians generally from the coronavirus? And finally, Mr. Speaker, could my honourable friend confirm whether, upon arrival in the country from his European tour, His Excellency the President would be quarantined? And Mr. Speaker, I say so because the President of Mongolia has been quarantined for the 14-day mandatory period. And Mr. Speaker, His Excellency the President has visited Norway, which has recorded a case of coronavirus. It will be very helpful to get an indication as to whether or not His Excellency will be quarantined when he arrives in the country. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The majority leader said protection from coronavirus is being treated holistically and not specifically targeted at various officials. He said the health minister would have to come to update MPs on what is being done to protect Ghanaians generally.
Speaker, the Honourable Ras Mubarak, as of what measures are being put in place to ensure that, Mr. Speaker, your good self and members of Parliament are protected from the coronavirus. Mr. Speaker, the protection of Ghanaian people would have to be universal. It doesn't have to be done for members of Parliament and the Speaker alone, which is why the Minister came here to explain where we are as at the time he appeared in the chamber. Speaker, I agree with colleagues that perhaps, given that a lot of water has passed under the bridge, it may become necessary for the Minister of Health to come back again and upgrade us and indeed update us about the status of the country, our state of preparedness in confronting the dread that is confronting the world. As to the request by the Honourable Mubarak that the President would have to be quarantined when he arrives, Mr. Speaker, I want to believe that it was said in jest. I want to believe that it was really said in jest, because if anybody needs to be quarantined, I believe we have to start with the Honourable Ras Mubarak. Mr. Speaker, I've seen and indeed heard him occasionally coughing, and we are not too sure where it's coming from. So we will have to start with him and really interrogate clinically where the cough is coming, because it's been persistent. Mr. Speaker, persistent and consistent. Mr. Speaker, we need to be careful.
Right, so we're returning to Skype and to speak with the Ghanaian doctor in Wenzhou, China, Akiti Stephen. Now, Dr. Akiti, you've heard, I'm sure you've heard the conversations going on here in Ghana in Parliament House, but I want to find out from you, what's the situation right now in China as far as the outbreak is concerned?
Okay, so currently in China, we know that for the past 5 days, we've had less than 500 new cases. And the recovery cases as of 12 midnight today happen to be more than 37,000. So things are getting better. Essential services are back. So we're talking about the banks. The markets are open just from morning till 4 p.m. Hospitals are also open. But then the precautions are still there. You have to wear your mask. You have to always wash your hands. All the precaution measures are there. You can't be seen in the restaurant eating. You have to always take a takeout. It's still the same. But for those in Wuhan, they are still under lockdown. Yeah.
All right. Do hold on for us. Joining us on phone now is Dennis Lai, who's the National Coordinator for Port Health at the Ghana Health Service. Thank you very much, Mr. Lai, for making time to speak with us. Now, we've heard about the case in Nigeria, and indeed the Ghana Health Service has issued a statement to that effect. The question I want to find out from you, considering how it happened or the case that came about in Nigeria, is Ghana intending to do anything different from what we are already doing at the airport?
Thank you very much, Israel, and good evening to the viewers. I think that the fact that we are all, talking more about it, especially today because we've had a case in Nigeria, says a lot about how, we are all anxious about it. And I think that our anxiety should be channeled into making sure that we prevent it from spreading if we should get a case in Ghana. In terms of our preparation, it's a moving target. So we keep amending or changing our preparedness plan based on the situations we have on hand. For example, now that there's a case confirmed in Nigeria, it just means that we need to look critically more at other things we may not be doing or may not be pursuing more aggressively, like our land entry points. And the case, for example, about, the illegal route have also come up because even if we look at the legal route, there are still the illegal ones. So we need to find ways of making sure that we can be able to get full control of the situation. And part of it is to engage the public. Because if people understand the risk of the disease, how it is spread, and what we can do to prevent it, people can still fall ill in the community and we will not have an outbreak on our hands because the necessary precautions have been taken. So those are some of the things we are doing. At our airport, we have intensified our surveillance and the screening efforts for staff, for passengers arriving from all countries. Indeed, at the onset, we're focused on only airlines that had connections to China. So we're not doing that now. And I personally came from Abuja a few days ago, and I had to go through the screening process. It didn't matter that I was coming from a country which then had not recorded a case. So those are some of the things we are doing at the airport. And the continuous engagement of the general public. I don't think I can stress that enough because it's a disease that can be easily spread from person to person if we don't adhere to basic things such as, cough etiquette and hand hygiene, which is washing our hands either with water and soap or using an alcohol hand rub. So these are some of the measures in place and which we are also strengthening to ensure that if we report a case, it doesn't spread or get out of hand.
All right, so Dr. Lai, we've been speaking with Dr. Stephen Akiti, who is in China and who happens to be quite close to what is happening. Now, he is suggesting that Ghana probably would have to simply ban all flights coming in from China, or anybody coming in from China should be kept out. What do you make of it, and is this something that you'd like to propose?
So, for example, if we listen, when the WHO declared the outbreak a public health emergency of international concern, they were emphatic that it should not lead to travel or trade restrictions. And Ghana is a signatory to what we call the International Health Regulation, which enjoins countries to adhere to some of these principles. So as a health system, and knowing that it's not this China that, for example, is affected now, are we saying, and I'm just stretching things far, but are we saying that we should, for example, ban all the countries where we have cases now? Because we cannot have a basis for discriminating against one country or the other. The risk is always there. It may be higher for some countries, but a lower risk does not mean that it won't happen. It can even happen with a lower risk. The case in point for Nigeria, for example, person came from Italy. So assuming Nigeria had banned flights from China, they would still have had a case of coronavirus from a different country. So I think that the precautions are the key things. Fortunately for us, there's a capacity of this country to be able to diagnose the disease. And so once we can be able to diagnose this, and this can be done quickly, Noguchi has been able to do the diagnosis very quickly for us, and the Kumasi Center for Collaborative Research in Kumasi also has the capacity to diagnose. So there can be that promptness in diagnosing to ensure that the necessary measures are also put in place promptly to prevent spread. And I think that these are things we need to hold on strongly to and work to ensure that we don't get an outbreak in Ghana.
All right, I'd like to get Dr. Stephen Akiti to respond to that. So, Dr. Stephen Akiti, as you heard Dr. Laye say, it would be virtually impossible to say that, or impractical to say we're banning all flights from China, because they could come from other countries apart from China. What do you make of that?
I strongly believe that apart from all this happening, the main thing is the preventive bit of it. If flights can be banned, some few countries have had this done already. But if Ghana can't have that done, then I think the precautionary measures need to be put in place. Preventive measures need to be put in place. I think the media has to start making a lot of campaign on the preventive measures of coronavirus, and also to encourage people to come out if they have any of these symptoms.
All right. Now, Dr. Akiti, I want to ask you this. The people, how are these cases managed in China? When somebody contracts the virus or gets the disease, how is the person managed? Are they able to cure these people?
So I like to start with people who are suspected cases. In China, as of now, when somebody has fever, cough, somebody sneezes, the person will just call a contact, and the police and the ambulance will come for you to the hospital, run the test. When they run the test and you're confirmed, then that means that you'll be started on fluids, oxygen, and you'll be given certain medications. Virtually, they are looking at they are looking at controlling all the signs and symptoms that you have. Also, they'll be giving you antiviral medication. They've also found out that chloroquine can cure this. They also give a medication we call favipiravir and remdesivir. Those are medications that are being given now.
Thank you very much, Dr. Akiti. I'd like to bounce that off Dr. Dennis Laye. So, Dr. Dennis Laye, you heard what Dr. Stephen Akiti says and how they are managing the cases. Is that the same way we're preparing to manage the cases? And he's saying that common chloroquine is also part of the treatment.
Well, thank you very much. And I'm happy he reinforced what I said, which is that we need to focus on the prevention. And prevention will be based on public knowledge on this. So we would also appeal to the media. I'll join him in appealing to the media to keep educating the public on this. In terms of treatment, there are a lot of things being tried because, again, this is a new disease. So there are lots of things being tried. And I think that I don't want to say we will probably be in a better position if we should get a case, because hopefully others have been able to get ahead of us in terms of experiences in managing such cases. So we're hoping that we don't get cases. We're hoping that the measures we're putting in place prevent us from getting an outbreak in Ghana. But if we should get there, I think that we have to learn from what others have done. I'm not sure if we still have chloroquine in Ghana, though, because we've stopped using chloroquine for a while. So, but if it gets to the point where it is chloroquine we need, I'm sure that the necessary measures will be put in place to ensure that we can be able to manage cases. But I think that we should keep hammering on prevention, which I think is our best weapon in this case.
All right. Thank you very much, Dr. Dennis Lai. He's the National Coordinator for Port Health and the Ghana Health Service. And the other question I would have loved to ask Dr. Kitty, if he's still on, is for him to reinforce the point that when you get the disease, it does not necessarily mean that you're going to die. Dr. Kitty, are you able to tell us that?
Yes, please. When you get the disease, it doesn't mean you're going to die. Now, every viral infection, when your immune system is strong enough, you can fight it. For the coronavirus, we've realized that those who are immunocompromised, the old, the very young, those who are on cancer medications, those who are on steroids, those with diabetes, all those who are immunocompromised, they are those that we've realized that their death tolls have gone up.
All right.
Yes, but those with good immune systems. So we advise that people exercise, you hydrate yourselves, you take your vitamins, and you stay strong.
All right. Yeah. Thank you very much, Dr. Akiti. And that advice is very good advice, and I hope we're all taking that. Thank you. Meanwhile, here in Ghana, the Upper West Regional Chief Imam Alhaji Osman Mahama Kanihi has led a number of imams at the West Central Mosque to pray for God to intervene in the outbreak of the coronavirus, which has now become a global disease. He said the essence of the prayer is for God to come to the aid of mankind, take away the virus, and leave the people, so that the people will live healthy lives. Since the outbreak of the disease in Wuhan, China, it has killed over 2,700 people and several thousands confirmed cases. Joining us, Upper West Regional correspondent Rafiq Salam was at the West Central Mosque, where the prayers were said in our reports.
The Adua, or special prayers, who took the form of reading from the Holy Quran and individual prayers, was well attended by senior clerics from the Orthodox Muslim sect, most of whom from the Limairi clan. The prayers were said under the auspices of the Upper West Regional Chief Imam Alhaji Osman Mahama Kanihi immediately after the Friday congregational prayer. They prayed to Almighty Allah to come to the aid of mankind by taking the virus away from them. An administrative assistant to the regional chief imam, Alhaji Zaidu Tamimu, who spoke on behalf of the regional chief imam, said the prayers is not only for Ghana, but for the entire world.
We expect God to answer our prayers. We expect God to answer our prayers and then take the virus away from the world. We understand that it has come as far as Nigeria and it's in Iran and every other place. We are just praying that God will come to the aid of mankind. God can do everything.
Rafiq Salam filed that report, and we're taking a break here on Joy News Prime, but still ahead in the bulletin. As part of Accra experience the first rainfall since the onset of the Harmattan, residents are worried about the city's preparedness against the floods the Meteo Agency is predicting this year.
2011-2015, in so to trophy and grammar and fight the whole crime.
There's still a lot of work to be done on the Odor drain. And
normal when it rains, people find very uncomfortable here. Okay.
And the Auditor General is insisting he's unfazed by threats to remove him from office.
I don't care. So if today I'm told I'll be removed, that is it. Full stop.
Stay tuned in. We'll be back with business in a bit. It's time for business, and Sandra Fenwick has joined me, and the conversation is still about COVID-19 and the impact on business. Apparently, yeah, it's quite serious. So you're looking at the CD dollar, and you realize that the CD is gaining in value because people are not, the traders are actually not traveling to go buy stuff, and we're actually having some. They're unable to restock
because goods are stuck in China. Traders can also
they're not
travel
going there to travel
China,
to go buy.
And the few that we have in the market, prices are actually going up.
And that's quite serious. But for me, I feel that it presents an opportunity for us to begin to look within and avoid imports.
Easy. We'll leave that to you to put a plan together for us, and then we take advantage of that. Celebrating 25 years of joy. My name is Sandra Esinama, and I'm here for business. Health officials in Nigeria have confirmed the first case of the deadly coronavirus. The Federal Ministry of Health, in a Twitter post, said the case was recorded in the commercial capital, Lagos. It is also the first confirmed case in West Africa since the outbreak in China on December 31, 2019. But how prepared are our inland border posts to protect the country from the deadly COVID-19 virus? Fred Ho was at the Flower border and has come through with this report.
Travelers troop in from neighboring countries, including Togo, Nigeria, and Benin, on a daily basis. Health professionals at the arrival hall were spotted with their protective equipment while subjecting travelers through screening with a computer and temperature guns from a distance. The health officer in charge of Port Health Services, Frank Sai, tells me they are leaving no stone unturned.
But we cannot find the camera directly outside because of the heat. So it's directed towards the immigration section so that because it takes that temperature. The temperature is shown on the screen. So that if the temperature is above 37.5, it peaks. This is showing that the temperature is high. That's what we the expected traveler. And when they come, they go through hand washing. We have the washing bay there. From there, they come to our table here and see the head decoration.
Africa's most populous nation, Nigeria, has become the first country in West Africa to confirm presence of the disease. This means the COVID-19 coronavirus is now closer to Ghana than ever before. A check from the Aflao Municipal Hospital, the major health post designated to handle cases of the virus, is still under renovation. Foreigners who are suspected to be carriers of the virus are subjected through rigorous procedures. This, the foreign travelers say, are too bureaucratic and cumbersome.
At the airport, we fill the same form, and then entering into Togo, we have to fill the same form, and coming back, we are filling another form. So we are thinking like too much of filling of forms, because we just entered Togo yesterday and today. If there is a way of screening to know whether we can, it's a way of screening so that we don't go through these processes at every border, it will be fine with us.
But the local health officials disagree.
We went to Togo. We are coming back. We don't know what happened there. And the temperature, maybe when you came here, it would be well. But when you were there, something might have happened. So when you are coming in again and it's clear, I don't think it's something bad. It is the right direction. All we are doing, making sure that those with the infection, when they get, we're able to pick them at point, and then we send them for assessment.
The fate of many of these travelers rely on border post officials. The coronavirus outbreak is yet to be declared a pandemic by the World Health Organization. For now, we need to exercise utmost caution. These include washing of hands frequently with soap and running water, and staying away from people showing signs of fever, cough, and difficulty in breathing. Fred Duho's report for Joy Business.
Meanwhile, the coronavirus outbreak in China is already taking a toll on businesses, especially on prices of mobile phones and accessories in the Ashanti region. Our checks reveal prices are up between 5 and 10% as many traders who import from China have suspended travel to the Asian country. Prince Apia has been engaging dealers and users on the development and has come through with this report.
Francis Yili is a mobile phone retailer and laptop repairer in Kumasi.
So I came here to get a phone screen, my A7 Samsung phone. It got cracked a few days ago, and I'm told that they've run out of stock. Surprised though, but that's the situation for most of the phone sellers and phone shops here in the Ashanti region because of the China situation.
It has affected a lot of items. As you enter here, you were asking me about your phone screen, and they told me the price, but they said they don't have it because of no production, and they can't send goods.
Francis cannot travel to China to bring in new stock due to the outbreak in China. He is worried about the impact business operators are already enduring.
Right now they have even increased the prices of the products, laptop screens and the phone screens. And even right now we have increased the price about 5%. We have increased the price, and still the prices are still continuing increasing. So
at Tech Junction is another retailer, Superlovic Phones, which deals in brands like Techno and Itel. Owner of the shop says prices have gone up due to shortage of the stock.
Yes, it has really affected our business because there are some shortage of phones, especially Infinix and Technos. Some customers come here, they don't get some to buy.
So what about patrons of these products? Some who spoke to Love Business explain they are also feeling the brand.
You see, as I'm speaking now, I have a lot of shortage here, especially batteries and freeze, phone cables, especially the iPhone cables. There has been a shortage. So when you go there, they will tell you go and come the following day. The following day you go, they will tell the same story that they don't have.
The trend seems to offer no guarantee to phone businesses here in Kumasi. There are fears of many people being pushed out of business if the development persists for 2 or more months. This has become a major worry to the leadership of the Ghana Union of Traders Association. Here is the regional chairman, Anthony Fosu.
As far as mobile phones are concerned, most of the accessories are coming from China. So if the situation does not improve over there in China, it means we are in for a trouble. Plans are far advanced. I think by the close of next month, a delegation from the Ghana Union of Traders is going to Mexico. They are very good in production of mobile phones accessories, which are mostly also coming from China. So we are looking elsewhere for them.
The fate of many businesses hang in the balance until the coronavirus outbreak ends due to the extent of Ghanaian reliance on China for trade. Prince Apia reporting.
Away from the coronavirus, government has directed all freight forwarders, clearing agents and other stakeholders at the port to adopt a new customs management system for clearance of goods effective March 1. All other importers will be required to use the existing pre-arrival assessment report system PASS and the Ghana Customs Management System. This was contained in a letter signed by Senior Minister Yao Osafo-Manfo on Wednesday, February 26. President of GIF, Eddie Akron, has been reacting to this directive.
So no training has been done. How are you going to migrate onto the system? The fear also is that if this instruction is coming from the senior minister, what is Customs going to do? Are they going to shut down the GCNet system? We already have declarations in the system, mind you. So what are they going to do? Migrate it onto the other system, or what is going to happen?
But from what we understand, it's basically the same. There's no difference. So do you think it's still going to pose a problem if we have similar systems?
Of course it's going to pose a problem. This is technology. If we are migrating onto your system, we migrate onto your system. There's nothing like a midway, okay? Or some kind of connection between the two. So if you ask this one to stop and shut down, then we are migrating onto this one. So what happens? Is Customs going to shut down? It's going to be chaotic. These are two major transit points that we have. You have goods running in all across West Africa. So coming through Aflao to Elubo and vice versa. Okay, and these are major transit points. It is a bit chaotic, and we plead with them to just tarry a while, because trust me, all this in the letter, I mean, asking our members to, going for their codes, and they would have no clue as to where to go. 2-3 weeks ago, we actually wrote to the Commissioner of Customs to seek audience with him, with the nature of, the training facilitation that was being done, because we had worries with it. We had been there, done that before, so the quality assurance was there, and we needed, so we can do the comparative analysis. So we were worried about what was happening. So we actually wrote to them, let's sit down and figure out. So we sat with the Deputy Minister for Finance, and then actually proffered a whole lot of solutions if they want this to go smoothly. Now, this has not happened, and then overnight we get this. And this letter came in yesterday. Can you imagine what's going to happen on Monday?
Well, that's all for now. I'm back after 8 p.m. with more business news. My name is Sandra Isenamafeno.
Welcome back to Joy News Prime. Auditor General Daniel Domlovo has stressed his commitment to expose corrupt practices in the public sector, despite threats to remove him. According to him, he's unfazed by the threat, since a dismissal would not end his life, but rather provide him an opportunity to engage in a different venture. Mr. Domlovo, who said this when he addressed the third biennial Regional Auditors Conference in Ho on the Volta region, lamented the high level of corruption in the country's public sector, which he says has become a norm among public servants.
So corruption is a major thing that we have to fight. So my colleague auditors, don't be afraid. Let us fight corruption. And like I tell you always, when you fight corruption, corruption will fight you back. I hope you are aware of that. Some are calling me incompetent, some are calling me partisan, some are calling me all the names. And there is no human being who does good who is not attacked on this way. Jesus Christ, who went, in fact, many times when I think about him, I feel happy. Because I'm like, this is somebody who goes and heals. Who we should be clapping for, they are accusing him. He does good and people are attacking him. So that is what it should be for auditors. If we come to Volta region and they are praising you so much, you are a bad auditor. So we will continue doing our work, and I would like to say, those of you who attended our Thanksgiving ceremony, the Vicar General admonished you, and I want to repeat, he said, have courage, courage. We need courage to discharge our work. Be courageous. Nobody will kill you. The only thing which may happen is that you lose your job. It's not the end of life. You may be transferred. That's not the end of life. I've said it several times. People say, we will remove him like how they removed Charlotte Rossell. I said, who say I care? I don't care. So if today I'm told I'll be removed, that is it. Full stop. Life doesn't end here. When I tell my children, they shouldn't worry. At West, my father has a lot of farmland. I'll go and farm and feed this country. Life doesn't end here. So please be courageous, be bold, and do your work for God and what? Country. Let's look at principles, not personalities.
Now, major drains in Accra remain choked with silt and plastic waste as the country prepares for rains next month. The Ghana Meteorological Agency has warned there will be flooding in many parts of the capital if the rains setting. The Odor drain, for example, remains choked with tons of plastic and silt and weeds despite last year's dredging. Now, parts of Accra Friday afternoon experienced the first rain since the Harmattan set in late last year. The rain, which lasted a few minutes, was not heavy and did not cause destruction to property. At least we do not know of any such destruction. The Ghana Meteor Agency had correctly forecast the rain. Felicity Ahafianyo joins me with more on Friday's rains. Thank you very much, Felicity Ahafianyo. Right, we have lost it. We'll try and re-establish a connection with Felicity, but the Ghana Joy News' Mami Esi Nyamise Thompson has been speaking with some residents of Accra who are worried about the rains setting in.
Right behind the new plant station at the Kwame Nkrumah Circle lies the Odo Drain. The first thing that greets my team is the strong smell from rotten garbage and human excreta. Drawing closer to the drain, we see a vast pile of silt sitting on the banks of the drain, ready to be washed back. While there, you can still observe people throwing rubbish, easing themselves right at the bank of the drain. Sam Loco is a driver at Newplant Station.
In 2011-2015, in so to trophy and crime and fire the whole crime.
There's still a lot of work to be done on the Odor drain, and where the most work is often the place they never go to, especially the Graphic Road end. There are some 2 bridges there holding the railway line. They've got 3 passages underneath, and all of them are choked.
Who's the was a tray? Who's the sea? The car tabes tower, almost a son, a tegu bottom at the block who so the crime you about the car back up. And so to the chief house about the car, a man, a quabadermu, a best there, and a treasure for woman, you'll be a free what Okutukumi show is say.
That report was by AC Nyamise Thompson, but that'll be it for those of you watching on Joy Prime. The news continues on the Joy News channel, where we have been joined on the line by Felicity Ahafianyo, who's going to be telling us a bit more about the rains we experienced here in Accra this afternoon. Thank you very much, Madam Felicity Ahafianyo. So we know that there was some rain in Accra. Are you able to tell us how widespread these rains were?
Yeah, good evening. There was some rain today. The bulky was over the sea, and we just have a peg over Greater Accra and parts of the central region. Some areas just had some brief showers over places. I heard areas around Asarebotre Lake Estate had some showers, and then around Mimpasem also had some showers. But the other areas, we've not confirmed any information from them whether they were able to have some showers this afternoon. But the activity was mainly over the sea.
Is this the kind of rain we're expecting to say that the Harmattan is over?
Yes, it's part of it that the Harmattan is coming to a close, especially over the coastal belt. But those of us over the inland areas, ours will still extend up to April, and then those over the north will be up to May. But then I want to come in here. By May, the northern portions will be out of the dry season. The rain will come, but that doesn't mean that between now and May there will not be any rain. There will be 1 or 2 rains over the northern sector, over Kumasi, Eastern, and then the Oti regions too. There will be 1 or 2 rains over these areas. But Greater Accra, Central, and parts of the western region, yes, we could say the rain has come to a halt, but then we will be having higher temperatures from now onwards, and then we'll be having just slightly hazy conditions, but it's not going to be as it used to be. Like tomorrow that is coming over Greater Accra, we have little dust in this in suspension over the capital, which will reduce visibility, but not as we have seen in December, January, and early parts of February.
So clearly, the rains we're seeing is bringing some relief.
Yes, it's going to bring some relief, and then the other aspect is it's also going to bring some heat into the atmosphere, because it's going to clear the dust to allow for more sunshine, so temperatures will start rising.
Well, that is not so welcome. We're hoping that if the rains are starting, then it means we're going to have much cooler weather, but that's not going to be the case, as you're saying. But let's look at are you able to give us an indication how much rainfall we had this afternoon?
I don't have the figures at hand, so I will not be able to tell you the volume.
But would you say it is significant?
It's not significant. It's not significant. It will be less than 2 millimeters or 5 millimeters over some areas.
All right. Thank you very much. Felicity Ahafianyo is with the Ghana Meteorological Agency. We're taking a break to bring you World News. Governments in sub-Saharan Africa have been urged to let their commitment to the Sendai framework reflect in policies they roll out at the national, regional and local levels. The continent has also been reminded of worrying revelations in the 2019 Global Assessment Report and the need for the world to work towards creating sustainable pathways for a more resilient future. The call comes at a time the world is experiencing troubling climate crisis, including the recording of highest temperature rise of the world's greatest fountain of ice, the Antarctica. At a training workshop for disaster risk reduction journalists in Mombasa County, Kenya, staff of United Nations Disaster Risk Reduction Africa Office, Julius Kabube, says the 2019 Global Assessment Report also reveals some scary projections.
But it begins with the individual. Yeah?
The call by the African Office of the United Nations Disaster Risk Reduction Office also comes a decade clear before the expiration of the Sendai Framework, which seeks to encourage governments to build the resilience of nations and communities to disaster.
We recognize that we need to dramatically improve our understanding of vulnerability, and particularly socioeconomic and socio-ecological vulnerability, recognizing that disaster impacts amplify the socio-vulnerabilities of peoples, and certainly the impacts are disproportionately borne by those of particularly vulnerable and marginalized communities.
Emission levels fueled by the continued burning of fossil fuels and the destruction of forests continues to show no sign of slowing down.
The global assessment report comes in with very scaling messages, I would say. Let me just tell you, it's scaling messages, because one thing it has identified that what we knew is not enough. We need to know more. It is in fact advising us to use what we know and to use what we don't know. So this means that we have to think outside the box. We have to be more innovative. We have actually to change tactics, because what is happening is that because of the surprises that are coming, basically driven by climate change, where you have very severe weather events, extreme climates, then of course you find this has become a risk multiplier, and therefore it is giving us a challenge, because what we knew as a linear system is no longer linear, and therefore it becomes very difficult for us to make good forecast and for us to advise the people.
Aware of the threats of global warming and climate change, and advocacy by scientists to limit warming to the 1.5 degrees Celsius rise above pre-industrial levels, the African Office of the United Nations Office for Disaster Risk Reduction is on a mission to partner African nations to avoid firefighting approach of disaster management by embracing and implementing the Sendai Framework.
We must start thinking outside. We must advise governments accordingly, and actually we must go local, because the disasters happen at local level. It is calling us to go to the local level, be prepared, go to the local level with risk-informed planning, go to the local level with good contingency, go to the local level with funding mechanisms such that those surprises that are now happening so rapidly are not coming as shocks to us.
Even though nations are not legally bound by the 15-year Sendai Framework, it has since its inception influenced disaster-related policies across the African continent, according to the African Office of the UNDRR.
We have been very critical. We have been very focused on really making sure that strategies also are cascaded to that level. And this is also supported, if you look like Target E, we are trying also to come up with the guidelines so that we can be able to support national and local level development of risk-informed strategies.
If the world is to win the war against global warming and climate change, the last thing expected is a demoralizing gesture like this from arguably the most powerful president in the world.
In order to fulfill my solemn duty to protect America and its citizens, the United States will withdraw from the Paris Climate Accord
The declaration by President Trump has been described by environmentalists as a dangerous gesture that could potentially put the world in a harm's way. But the African office of UNDRR says it is ready to work with nations that have identified the risk and potential threats and are ready to confront them.
For us, we are believers in climate change. We work very closely with other UN agencies like World Meteorological Organizations. We go through the reports which they give, like the Intergovernmental Panel of Climate Change. They're responsible for coordinating all those climate change projections through the models they run on climate models. And I think for us, we work with them very good. We are not concerned about people being skeptical about whether there's climate change or no climate change. Risks are being seen. The changing face of risk is being observed, and therefore we will continue to work with governments and those who are believers.
A good number of African countries are taking steps to implement the Sendai framework, but some countries are doing better than others. Pamela Komujuni Kalule, a senior disaster management officer of the Office of the Prime Minister of Uganda, tells me the increasing levels of disaster and the harsh impact left the country with no other option but to implement disaster risk interventions.
Target E is actually very important in a sense that it is the target under which we actually are able to develop institutional, policy, program, and legislative frameworks. And it is these frameworks that actually set the pace for whatever activities can be undertaken at the national level, at the subnational level, as well as the community level. Because if you do not actually put in place those frameworks to be able to design the different strategies and approaches that you can use to make sure that you build resilient communities, it becomes very difficult, and whatever interventions you engage in are sort of ad hoc in nature. So I would really strongly encourage governments to really work on putting in place policies, strategies, and legislation for disaster risk reduction and management.
With Antarctica recording a 65% degrees temperature, its warmest temperature ever recorded, there is no denying the harsh reality that sea levels will continue to rise, increasing the risk level of disasters. For every community battling hostile sea tide, the Mikoko Pamoja Mangrove Project is without a doubt a mitigation model. The Mangrove Project has not only become a tourist site, it is serving as a defense wall, protecting nearby communities from the violent sea tide.
The community can also profess and tell you that they've seen some changes in the fisheries because of just protecting the forest. So even if they don't get much money from the carbon offset project, the other benefits are surrounding the conservation of this forest.
It may be an uphill task, but coastal communities in Ghana and other African countries that have been bearing the brunt of tidal waves and violent sea tide can begin by nursing their own mangroves to create a buffer between them and the sea that continues to rise. Latif Idris, Joy News, Mombasa County, Kenya.
A new curriculum plan dubbed the Common Core program is seeking to raise Ghana's learning standards to the international level and focus more on developing the potential of children. With the new program, the Ghana Education Service and National Council for Curriculum and Assessment, NACA, will fade out grade F, which represents failure. Executive Secretary of NACA, Dr. Prince Hamid Ama, says the new learning strategy will start in September this year.
When you look at the current assessment system, we finish at the end of the term, they will grade you one, either A, B, C, D. As we said, it doesn't actually mean anything. When you say somebody has got F and you say the person has failed, especially when you are saying that everybody by law should have access to basic education. What have they failed? Have they failed to obtain that basic education? And who has failed to provide them that basic education? So that's a major challenge. And in terms of even how we put A, B, C, D there, in a standard-based curriculum, we cannot continue to put A, B, C, D on students' report card. We have specific competencies or learning outcomes that we want them to achieve. They are in the curriculum. At the end of the grade level, we we say that, for example, if somebody is supposed to count from 1 to 1,000, 1 to 1,000 should be achieved at the end of the year, not the term. So we are saying if the child gets 40 or below 40, we say that child or that student is emerging. He hasn't failed, he is emerging. It means that he has some knowledge that if we can help harness, that child can develop. So this is the form of assessment or how we are going to benchmark the learning experiences under the common.
There will be 9 revised subjects which will use project work and community service as part of student assessment. Dr. Hammer tells Joy News stakeholders are well equipped and willing to ensure the successful takeoff of the program.
So we're looking at implementing the CCP from September 2020, where we'll start from the junior high school 1, and they will be the first cohort of the program. So each year, when we get to the next year, then they will roll out year by year. So that will be the timeline. So by 3 or 4 years, they would have gotten to SHS 1 and finished the CCP. And by which time we would have also finished developing the career-related curriculum and then the academic-related curriculum as well. Well, I think that when it comes to the readiness, and then implementation issues, Ghana Education Service will be responsible for the implementation. But I should think that now, given the fact that we implemented the KG to primary 6 last year and the kind of learning curve that we've gone through, they would have identified the implementation challenges that went through last year and then work on that for this year. The ministry has been very much committed to ensuring that we review and change how our children learn in the school system, and is very, very much committed to providing the needed resources for the implementation. For example, the ministry is ready as we speak now to buy textbooks.
They came, saw and conquered in spectacular form. The academic prowess of the boys from Sunyani Senior High School was evident, and in them the highest point so far in the regional qualifiers. This the contestants attribute to months of preparation, making the contest many predicted to be very close and no contest. No regional correspondent Precious Samevo has more.
With 4 slots remaining, the last day of the qualifiers in the Bono region witnessed mixed reactions. There were nervous moments, sad moments, and exciting moments, especially when answers were correct. Then came the last contest, dubbed the El Clasico of the Bono regional qualifiers. Host Sunyani Senior High School, St. James Seminary Senior High School, Doma Senior High School, and Sumaman Senior High School were to slug it out for the only slot left. Sunyani Senior High School, Susek, however, showed the academic strength on the first question, picking all points at stake in round 2 as their challengers watched in shock. Susek eventually ended the contest with a whopping 75 points, the highest so far in the nationwide qualifiers.
I am a 2-digit number. I am an odd number. I am an exact square. Yes, Sunyani Senior High School. And that is correct. Man Senior High School with 14 points. Doma Senior High School with 18 points. St. James Seminary Senior High School with 23 points. And Sunyani Senior High School with 75 points.
Susek lead contestant Hayford Neto, who aspires to become a medical doctor, explained their game plan.
We try that if around every school is picking his or her question, then we should work hard in the round 2 so that you just leave a big gap between them. That's why when it came to the round 2, we're doing amazing things. Try as much as possible to learn very hard, because we know that up there are big schools, and we are also trying to prove them that we are also a big school. That's why we have decided to also show them that we are also coming this year.
Team leader Frank Arthur Afriye said working on the basics has helped them, while urging the old students to be part of the preparation as they own the bragging rights in the school's success.
We need the old students to come on board, because the science and mastery is the bragging right of the old students. So if the school wants to take up the financial aspect of the school is going to break down. So we need the old students to come on board so that we can visit the bigger schools who are doing well in the science and maths, so that we can expose our kids.
From the Bono region, Dropo SHS, Sacred Heart SHS, Odumasiman SHS, Brekum SHS, Notre Dame Girls SHS, and Sunyani SHS qualified for the national championship. For Joy News, Precious Semebo, Sunyani.
Now, schools in the Ashanti region will tomorrow begin their campaign to the national championship in Accra. In all, 94 schools will be in action for only 20 slots available to the region. Here are the contests scheduled for the first day of qualifiers. We take a break now to bring you the editorial for this week.
Throughout this week, Ghanaians were confronted with what has come to be known as the scholarship scandal, the Get Fund gallimaufry that sparked public outrage. But it's not as if we didn't know that Get Fund was awarding scholarships to many, some undeserving than others. However, the revelations in the Auditor General's report blew the minds of many. Politicians and lecturers who would ordinarily not be considered as needy were jostling with brilliant youth who were the target of the scholarship. To state the obvious, Get Fund is a fund, not a scholarship secretariat. This simply means it is a pool of money set aside to be administered by a trustee for the specific purpose of supplementing the financing of education. Get Fund's role is simply to fund agencies and allow them, which are specialists, to provide the targeted service. To be clear, the fund is targeted at brilliant but needy students to pursue their education. That means people who do not have the wherewithal and whose situation is so dire they have no options. And that's why the inclusion of the Executive Secretary of the National Council for Curriculum and Assessment, Prince Ama, raised eyebrows. Listen to his justification.
It was a struggle to get into and through senior high school. That is the very point I made when I applied for a scholarship from the Ghana Education Trust Fund back in 2012. My purpose was to acquire the competencies that would enable me contribute to the national mission of extending quality education to everyone.
Well, if you think his explanation does not suffice, wait till you hear that of the politicians who've been feeding off what the needy youth ought to be benefiting from. As you know by now, Education Minister Matthew Opoku-Prempeh and Deputy Majority Leader Sarah Adra-Safo were among those named as beneficiaries. Both have justified their inclusion, essentially suggesting that it was to serve the populace better. Just take a listen to the Education Minister.
As a minister with oversight responsibility of the GET Fund, I have not taken money from the fund. It is absolutely false. The truth of the matter is, in 2014, we had an invitation from Harvard University to pursue a course, and GET Fund sponsored it.
So why will anyone classify ministers and members of parliament as needy? Well, Majority Leader Oseche Mensah-Bonsu says it is erroneous to conclude that MPs are not needy.
MPs are well endowed. I'll suggest to you that it's not like that at all.
Again, the justification continues, and the opportunity cost of choosing to give that scholarship to a politician who, by the way, has more access to influence and funding than a poor, brilliant young student is denying that student the needed education. It is disgraceful for politicians, in spite of their many privileges, to enjoy scholarships meant for the underprivileged in society. It is also the case that the fund may have paid ghost beneficiaries, as some persons whose names appeared on the tour list denied ever receiving any such funds.
After I got the admission, I was seeking for sponsorship and I applied at GET Fund. I couldn't get to go in 2013. I had to defer the course for 2014, and in 2014, still the fees were not paid.
Unacceptable. But instead of, going for the heads of the GET Fund trustees and their legislator beneficiaries, some are busy condemning the Auditor General for simply doing his work. But Daniel Domilevo is unperturbed, and rightly so. He's calling the bluff of his critics who want him removed.
I've said it several times. We will remove him like how they removed Charlotte Rosse as a who's I care. I don't care. So if today I'm told I'll be removed, that is it. Full stop. Life doesn't end here. When I tell my children they shouldn't worry. At West, my father has a lot of farmland. I'll go and farm and feed this country.
Bringing to light what has been hidden for so many years, and the inefficiency of the GET Fund, which is robbing the state of the needed development. But now, it remains to be seen what happens next after this. Will parliamentarians, as the people's representatives, inquire further into this to end this debacle? Will anyone be prosecuted for their role in this illegality? Or will the GET Fund talking end in vain? Our call tonight is to those with the power to make change. Consider the thousands of poor but brilliant students and their missed opportunities. Who will they turn to for help?
Hello again. Let's wrap up business for the week. And Group CEO of Data Bank, Kojo Adai-Mensah, is blaming financial literacy for the panic that hit the sector during the banking sector cleanup. He said the exercise exposed the level of ignorance among some depositors and investors. So, how bad was the situation, and how do we restore confidence in Ghana's financial sector? That's the question I asked the Data Bank boss.
A lot of people have monies in various financial institutions, and in fact sometimes people are unable to differentiate between commercial banks and investment banks and fund managers. So once the cleanup started, nobody was sure what was going to happen next. Some people, of course, had their monies locked up in certain institutions. So if you have your money locked up in institution A, and you have money sitting here with us at Data Bank, and you have school fees to pay, you're looking at your kids, you have no choice but to, come for your money. So to that extent, we saw, people, withdrawing their investments here. We saw that those who would rather come and invest were holding on, and yes, confidence was completely shattered. In the commercial banking space, I agree that the confidence is back. On the flip side, when it comes to us, the fund managers and the investment banks, it's not yet quite the case. I mean, the confidence is still not restored.
How do you hope to turn the fortunes of the industry around to ensure that everybody really understands what the whole system is about?
It's not only a Data Bank issue. This is a whole industry matter, and all of us connected to the industry must do our bit. It requires a lot of education. That is the main driver. people just do not know, and they need to get educated. The regulator has a role. We, the fund managers, have our role. The clients have their role. Media has their role. And everybody has a role to play to make sure that people are not exploited for lack of knowledge, and the literacy goes on. So at Data Bank, at least, we are doing what we can. Last year, we went around almost the whole country. This year, beginning from March, we would hit the roads again and touch almost every region. Maybe we may not be able to touch the Upper East and Upper West, but definitely from Northern coming down, we expect to touch every region and educate people. Last week, we had a media session with a cross-section of the media, and we are hoping, because the media is so powerful, that once you are able to understand the differences and understand how things work, you can also educate. And when people are maybe bringing out information that's not entirely correct, then the media, you are in the position to correct perceptions. I keep saying, even in commercial banking is over 150 years old in Ghana, but how many people really understand it or have accounts even at the bank? Let alone us. Data Bank will be 30 years this year. We are the oldest in the industry. We are even older than the stock exchange. So it's just been a 30-year journey, of which maybe the last 20 years has been the most active. So we've not gone far at all, and there's so much education that needs to go on to really, really get people to understand how it works.
So I want to know how much you were affected during the crisis. I mean, the panic alone, how heavy was it on you, even though you were not part of the whole process?
It was huge. Sandy, it was really, really huge. You can't wrap your head around it. But I kept telling people, look, if they want their monies, let's give it to them. It even restores confidence, and they know that, oh, anytime they want their money, they can always come for it. Because once you believe that you've invested in the right assets. I mean, you went and you said you use the money to buy stocks. So you've bought stocks. The person wants his money. You sell the stock and you give the money back to the person. You said you go and buy bonds. You've bought bonds. If the person wants his money, you sell the bonds and you give them money. It's not like the problem comes when you brought money and I told you that I'll go and buy bonds, then I've gone to buy a car. Then that one is problematic.
What role do you see the regulator playing strongly to ensure that we don't ever get back to where we were as far as the banking sector cleanup was concerned?
Sometimes, to be honest, I think the regulator too is overbeaten. I mean, we should step back and ask, is the regulator even resourced to do what they are supposed to do? So I would even refer to our regulator, the Securities and Exchange Commission. They do not even have offices across the country, to be able to check some company be doing somewhere in some region somewhere. I can't recall the number of staff they have, but I think including even non-core staff, they are not more than 60. So yeah, you can blame the regulator, and there are cases where maybe on the Bank of Ghana side or on the Securities and Exchange Commission side, they may have seen something and not acted as immediately as they should have. So those cases are there, but I always come back and ask, is the regulator really resourced to do what they have to do? And just to be fair to them.
About 90% of freight forwarders are unable to identify rosewood species. I'll tell you more in the business news summaries.
It has emerged that about 90% of freight forwarders in Ghana lack the technical expertise and know how to identify all wood products, including the rosewood species, and as such cannot deliberately misclassify or misdeclare rosewood trees bound for export. The recent technical committee's report on illegal export of rosewood from Ghana to China cited freight forwarders for deliberately misclassifying and misdeclaring the species that contributed to significant export disparities of rosewood to China. The Forestry Commission FC says Ghana is close to obtaining the Forest Law Enforcement Governance and Trade Action Plan FLET license from the European Union. Mr. Chris Biko, Director, Timber Validation Department of the Commission, is upbeat that the process will be completed this year to pave way for the issuance of the license. This would make Ghana the second country after Indonesia to receive the FLET license. Ghana's efforts to put its economy on a more sustainable path by introducing a raft of wide-ranging reforms across the banking sector are mapped out in a new report. The report by the global research and advisory firm Oxford Business Group, Ghana 2020, charts the role that the country's 3 Eurobond offerings played as part of a broader ongoing drive to stabilize the cedi and boost foreign exchange reserves.
Crude oil is at its lowest price since the outbreak of the coronavirus in China. Today's market value was $50.50 a barrel. Details in the commodity news. Remind you that the multimedia group is celebrating 25 years of Joy. Keep watching Joy News and log on to our website myjoyonline.com/business. Thanks so much for staying with me for business all week. My name is Sandra Esinam Apeni. Do enjoy your weekend.
Many thanks to Sandra for the business news. Time now for the sport. I'm Gary Al Smith. We begin with the Under-17 Women's World Cup. Now the qualifiers are on, and Ghana's Black Maidens have left for Monrovia ahead of their qualifier against Liberia. That is happening on Sunday, the 1st of March. Now, Ghana play as guests to Liberia in the first leg of the second qualifying round, and coach Malambaba Nuhu, who was at the airport to take with him 18 players for the trip, says his team won't be underestimating their opponent.
You know, now football is everywhere. And you don't have to look at Ghana, Liberia, and then you are looking at Ghana in terms of we have been there, and so you have to underrate the Liberians. No, they have about 3, 4, 5 players when on a good day, if you give them the opportunity, they can score. So after watching them up to now, that has been my plan, how we have to stop those people and then also try to take advantage of the weaknesses that are spotted in their team. I will tell you that not fully professionals. You know, this our women football is something else. But majority of them are students. Majority of them are playing the National Women's League. That is the advantage there. Because it is not like previously where you call the under-17 players to come and you have to start from the scratches. That where you have to teach them how to pass and tactically how to move. This one, because of the Women's League, the ongoing Women's League, inshallah, we are okay because some of them at least are at some level. And then we didn't suffer much like we have to start from the scratch. We just continue from where they are from their various classes. And then I keep telling people that we are trying to strike a balance between what they have been doing at their various club level and then what we want to do. It is not as if that they are there, that when we bring them like Black Stars, we have to just start from somewhere. This one, even though they were up a bit, but we have to still take them through certain activities.
Still on women's football, but this time domestically in the Women's Premier League, ACP Lydia Donko, who is in charge of legal and prosecution at the Ghana Police Service, has been appointed as the chairperson of the Women's Premier League side Police Ladies FC. Susan Owusu-Ansah of our desk has more in this report.
ACP Lydia Donko, who is in charge of legal and prosecution at the Ghana Police Service, has been appointed chairperson of Women's Premier League side Police Ladies FC. This comes after a period of demonstrated interest and involvement in the team's affairs. In the early stage of the season, she took initiative to motivate and support the Police Ladies team with winning bonuses amongst other interventions. She donated 2,000 Ghana cedis to the Police Ladies team when they won their league opener against Lady Strikers by 4-1 at the Magdanla Town Park. Aside this, ACP Lydia Donko has been a key figure in wiping up support for the Women's League amongst other lady professionals. Lydia Donko is a law enforcement officer with over 15 years of experience, with a Master's of Law degree from University of Leeds and qualifying degree from the Ghana School of Law. Also has a Bachelor of Arts degree in Law and Political Science. She has been present at every Premier League encounter at the Magdanla Town Park. She gets to work immediately as her side are third in the Southern Zone League table with 2 wins and 4 draws out of their last 6 encounters.
Moving on to international football, there is European football action this week, coronavirus or not. Let's see what the fixtures are like. Well, we begin first with the Ghana Premier League, where Dreams FC play Diana Stars tomorrow, and then Legon Cities will play Techiman Wonders, 11 Wonders that is. And then, of course, Hearts of Folk will be playing Elmina Sharks, Brekum Chelsea play King Faisal, Duas play Inter Allies, Liberty play Karela, Mediama play Olympics, Wafa play Ash Gold. Elsewhere in the Premier League, Brighton and Hove Albion play Crystal Palace, Bournemouth play Chelsea, Newcastle, Burnley, West Ham United, Southampton, Watford, Liverpool, and Man City. Arsenal has been postponed. Elsewhere, Everton play Man United and Tottenham play Wolverhampton Wanderers. In Serie A, Lazio versus Bologna is there. Udinese, Fiorentina, Napoli versus Torino is also on the menu. And as you know, Italy is seeing a lot of games played behind closed doors, including that game between Juventus and Internazionale because of the coronavirus. Up to 5 games at least. Cagliari, Roma, Parma, Spal, Sassuolo, Brescia, Lecce, Atalanta, and Milan, Genoa. Spain sees Eibar play Levante, Valencia play Real Betis, Leganés, Deportivo, Granada, Celta Vigo, Sevilla, Osasuna, Athletic Club, Villarreal, Espanyol, Atleti, Mallorca, Getafe, Real Madrid, Barcelona. And that will be, of course, the Clásico. Will be interesting because Real Madrid have come into this game with 2 losses on the bounce, plus a Champions League defeat to Man City behind them. Barcelona are not playing as well themselves. It's 90 minutes in the game between Asante Kotoko and Bechem United at the Accra Sports Stadium, where Kotoko are playing at home because they are playing home away from home. Kotoko are leading by 3-1. Bechem United also have a red card. So that is the sport for now. You can get more with Hans Mensah Ando later. I'm Gary Alsmith. Thank you for joining me this week, Farid.
It's time for Journey's Interactive, and there are 2 stories that I'd like to share with you. One has to do with the COVID-19 and the fact that it's been found they have a case in Nigeria, and then what the Auditor General has been saying about threats to remove him. Let's start with the COVID-19 outbreak. So Ras Mubarak, he is concerned about the president. He says that the president, having toured a number of countries where cases have been confirmed, he's concerned that the president will probably have to be quarantined when he returns to Ghana. All right, so James says, but you're the same people calling the government to bring Ghanaians in China. NDC4. And then Michael says, let's put our political parties aside and face reality. The man spoke sense, and he spiked in a humble manner. So he spoke in a humble manner. So why all the insults? Let's open our eyes. And Kabri says, what's happening inside the country? Every good thing from Nigeria is going outside. Why disease and evil is coming to Nigeria? All right, so let's move to the other story, which is gaining quite a bit of traction. We posted it some 4 hours ago, and it has to do with the, all right, I almost took this one out. Let's get on to it. All right, I think I can still get the comment. So we have the Auditor General saying that people say we'll remove him like how we removed Charlotte Osei, but who says I care? I don't care. So if today I'm told I have been removed, life doesn't end. My father has a lot of farmlands. I'll go and farm and feed this country. All right, so let's get to check out the it has 3.4K reactions, 1,000 comments, and 279 shares. Mabella says, this man is a good presidential material to move this nation out of greed and enhance development. My respect to him always. And Moses says, I love this man. He's such a great character. In fact, if politicians think that they can mess up with everyone, they should remember that patriotism, to some extent, has a limit. We'll all sit aloof and see whether this country will work again for them to loot again. That's it. All right, and that's it for Joining Interactive, and that's it for the bulletin. And Mr. Lai, thank you very much for watching. You have a good night.